Hello and welcome to the FSF PopCast Live Edition.
Well, hello, kids and cadets, crazy nerds of all ages. Welcome to the FSF PopCast Live at 5 Edition. John and I are here to take you through episode 5 of Marvel's Secret Invasion. Now, John and I are really very much enjoying this show. It's amazingly done spy thriller, if you ask me. And it's a nice departure from the same old when it comes to superhero genre type stuff. So, we're very excited about this. And the last couple episodes have been on the average about 15 to 20 minutes shorter than the first few. But I don't feel like I'm losing anything on these last couple episodes.
No, they're pretty packed. There's no downtime at all.
Exactly. Yeah, they're keeping our attention. They're holding my attention and making me want to, like when we got done, I think close to the end of the episode today, I didn't even notice. I didn't look at the runtime before I got started. I got to the end. I'm like, wow, and I looked at the time. I was like, oh, okay. It's just, it went so well. It just kind of caught up with us. So
yeah. I only looked at the runtime to see if I had time to watch it before work. Like, do I have time to do this over breakfast? Yeah. Okay. Which
exactly.
is great. Under 45 minutes, I can usually watch it.
There you go.
Which is
all right. So we've got a few points today as we bring in, and we're going to have some slides here, some images to talk about. And John's got a few notes. We'll talk about the slides. We'll talk about John's notes. We'll talk about anything that you guys have want in the comments. If you have your thoughts about today's episode and you want to know our insights, or therefore lack of insights, which is probably more accurate, just shoot it in the comments and we'll talk about it. Now, however, as per usual, if you have not watched today's episode, there are spoilers ahead. Please know that we are not looking to try and ruin this show for you, but we are talking about an episode that did come out today on Disney+. So again, spoiler alert. We can only say it so many times, but yes, spoiler alert, spoiler alert, spoiler alert, spoiler alert. Okay, there we go. So one of the biggest questions I had about last week, and before I let John take the reins here, and I'll put up my first slide, one of the things that I had the biggest question about was Talos actually dead? We saw this image.
Right.
And today told us that, Talos is actually dead.
Right. But he also got credit for rescuing the president.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he may have died, but he also got a good public image out there. So, I don't know. Noble sacrifice?
Yeah, noble sacrifice. I thought the whole thing surrounding his death with Gia going to Vara, Fury's wife, was kind of interesting in the way that was handled. We got to see a Skrull funeral. And I know that was one of your notes, was about the Skrull funeral.
Yeah, because, Gaia knew that she had to bring like an offering with it, but didn't know how to say the prayer in her own native language because there's been this cultural identity loss.
Sure.
From them living on Earth for the last 30 years, because the 90s were 30 years ago.
Right, and pretending to be humans for the entirety of the time.
Right. Yeah, so I mean, you're going to lose some of yourself, some of what makes your community you when you just dive in like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So you want to start at the top of your notes and we can kind of go from there?
So Gravik is losing control. I mean, he's got Pagon calling him out in front of people, so he just executes him. Well, that doesn't exactly work. That doesn't inspire the fear Gravik thinks it should.
That was the dude that he grooted, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Just making sure.
Yeah. They gave him a name so we would theoretically care. I
didn't care. I had the feeling he wasn't going to be around very, very long, so no, I never learned his name.
Yeah. I only know because I watch with subtitles on.
Yes, well, I do too. That's the thing, but I still didn't care to learn.
But yeah, then he you know, little while later, he kills Beto, another named second tier character, but, Gravik can't control his own people, let alone the greater plan he's trying to hatch.
Under an attempted coup, Beto and the rest of those guys, they came in an attempted coup, tried to kill.
Yeah. Yeah. Which I thought the plastic bag was a nice touch. You don't see that too often, but
no, it was he definitely sandwich bagged him over the face and tried to suffocate him, and that's why we have that image of Gravik here, because you see Gravik in his human state.
Mm-hmm.
Once the bag went over his head, I mean, he came out after beating everybody, screaming and yelling and scaring the daylights out of all the people that were standing outside.
Right, and you can kind of see the extremis powers there flaring in his head. Because that did make people a little more aggressive, if I remember Iron Man 3 correctly. But he also doesn't know how to use that power fully yet, or maybe he doesn't have the full power because he's just using it to heal, not to actually deal any damage.
Yeah, he may not know that it does other things, and that he's just using it for healing capabilities because he's relying on his ability to Groot.
Yeah. So maybe it's that he can only do so much so far. Maybe it's that he doesn't know how to control himself or his terrorist cell or anything else. He doesn't seem like he should be in charge.
No, Gravik is lost.
Yeah.
Absolutely lost.
Yep. But let's see here. With as many times as people pulled guns on Fury this episode.
And last
episode, but nobody shot him. They've shot at him maybe.
Right.
But, Scrody, Scroll Roadie, at one point says that...
Scrody.
Scrody. Yeah.
You're going to pull out a gun on somebody, be ready to use it.
Yeah. But, how many people pull guns this episode and don't use them?
So while Fury has the gun, and I like this, to Scrody's head, there's 6 dudes behind him with their guns drawn, and nobody's using the whole thing was kind of funny to me.
Yeah. But then you have Sonya, who just casually walks in and starts talking to people and will shoot them. Mid-sentence.
By the way, before we go any farther, I just have to publicly announce my affinity for this woman's character. The posh sarcasm that just falls out of this woman's mouth is fantastic.
Yeah.
I went back a couple different scenes with her today just so I could rewatch what she said to people because it was so fantastic. I just absolutely adore this woman, and I am looking forward to whatever is going to happen between the two of them.
They're either going to get along great because they find the right groove, or they're going to absolutely hate each other.
I think they're right down the middle between those two things, because when you listen to them talk, there's an annoyance level from each of them. They're both annoyed with what the other one has to say and why they're saying it. But then they turn around and they're like, well, what are you going to do?
Right. Two of my favorite moments with her were when she's like, if you ask me, I think the scrolls are everywhere, and she shoots him in the leg. And then the other one with the Nigel's the one with the silencer pressed against the base of your skull.
I'm not my name's not Nigel. No, but his is.
Right. It's one of those things that, villains shouldn't give away their plan until after they carry it out.
Right.
She's doing that. She's like, no, I'm going to tell you what's already happened, and you can try to catch up.
Yeah. Yeah. If we were talking pre-show, if she were a villain, she'd be terrifying.
Oh yeah. But even with all of that, she still doesn't know that Scrody was a Skrull.
Right.
Somehow that slipped through. You would technical difficulties on Tim's end. Okay. So
I'm back.
Okay.
My camera's being interesting.
Your camera are you using a Windows computer tonight, Tim?
No, I'm using my MacBook, but the connection on this, I have a cheaper camera for here at home.
Oh,
we can
okay.
talk about this later, but it
All right.
it decided it wanted to disconnect. It does this at
All right.
random moments.
If you were using Windows, I was going to give you a hard time. That's what I did.
Fair enough.
Yeah. What else have I got here? Because we've been jumping around a little bit.
We did, yeah.
Yeah, so Fury, where'd that go? He's harvested the DNA from all of the Avengers, at the Battle of Earth, which is interesting that it's called the Battle of Earth, because it wouldn't be assigned the Battle of Earth by people on Earth. It'd be assigned that name by people elsewhere.
Right.
They would call it the Battle of Wakanda if it was named on Earth. But to be called the Battle of Earth, somebody else had to have named it. So this has gotten galactic attention. So he collected all this DNA. I'm not sure exactly how this works. That, having the Avengers DNA when there are a bunch of, science experiments and baseline humans and a super soldier.
Right.
But then I started thinking about it, like, there are a few, like, Carol Danvers is something of a mutant, right?
Right.
And T'Challa would have had the, what's it called? The heart-shaped herb?
Yeah, he definitely would have mutated genes because of the heart-shaped herb.
So then doing a little research on this, in the Ultimates comics, Wolverine was the first mutant. And all the other ones came from people experimenting with his DNA. The Ultimates are also where we got Sam Jackson as Fury.
Right.
They used his appearance without his permission. Which is why he gets to be Nick Fury in the movies anytime they use that character, because he did not sue Marvel.
Fair enough.
Legitimately.
Yeah.
But so I'm wondering if, the Harvest now is where they're going to bring in the rest of the mutants. That somehow that's going to get used to...
that's a great thought, and with a distinct possibility of that happening.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I couldn't find anything outside of this show about the Harvest. Since for once I had time to actually look at stuff.
The thing I found most interesting about the Harvest was that when he's like, yeah, we got to collect the DNA samples of all these heroes, and it's one vial of fluid.
Yeah.
Okay, so now is it just like the super soldier serum where it's just everything's just like, did they just pour it in and we're going to get it, It's just, it seems really weird to me. I mean, unless we just didn't get a close enough look to it, and there's tiny itty bitty capsules inside of the one vial or something like that. But it seems to me like we took like a little bit of Cap, a little bit of Thor, a little bit of, Black Panther. We're just gonna, make this mishmash and see what comes of it. And
yeah. But then, would maybe a different individual react differently to being exposed to it? Would, you have a different response than me. You get XYZ powers and I get EFG powers, whatever,
right.
I mean,
yeah, it's a very interesting concept, because that was the first thing I thought about as soon as that gravestone started going up and Fury reaches in to grab his, reaches in to,
to gather the harvest, if you will.
Yeah, sorry, I'm having all kinds of technical difficulties here today, and it is just absolutely wonderful. So,
okay, it's okay. We still love you.
Not sarcastic at all. But yeah, so as soon as that headstone went up and he reaches in and he grabs that test tube out of it, I was like, well, okay. So I thought he was going to walk over to the other tombstones and like, okay, this one's from this person, this one's from that person, It was like, I was like, oh, just the one. And then when he went into the building, and when he first started opening those containers up, I thought that's what he was doing, was getting more. But then he got his super cool Fury costume back out, and the leather coat, the eye patch that we've all been missing, all those different things. So yeah, I thought that was all part of it.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool too. Him, suiting up.
Yeah,
I think that's actually cooler than Iron Man suiting up, because it's just Fury resuming his identity to some extent, because he's been looking for it since the start.
Right. Well, yeah. The first couple episodes, we have Fury who's lost, and he doesn't know who and what he is. After the blip and being up at the tower, out in outer space, and then there's all these other things that are happening, and and he's lost, and find out that his wife, who he knew was a Skrull, is going to try and kill him, and I think that affected him, and finding out that one of his best friends was a Skrull, Rhodey, or Scrody, and kind of going from there. I was still sticking around for a little bit.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah.
I thought it was interesting too, and I didn't see this in your notes, but correct me if I'm wrong.
Sure.
Maybe you did have it in here. But one of the things I thought was interesting was going back to Gravik and his loss of control and everything that's happening, was him turning another government against his own people, using his own people as leverage.
Yeah.
For the site in Russia, and even Scrody was like, this is a bad plan, boss. And he's like, no, it's their leverage.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that's going to play out. That's interesting. That's a new level of crazy.
Right. So we have, the thing I like about this episode though is that we have a couple different levels of crazy. We have Gravik crazy, which is just bonkers and out there, and then you've got Sonya crazy, who's like, yes, here's my plan, and this is what I'm doing. And by the way, you're going to die anyway. And I friggin' love her. If I didn't say it enough earlier, friggin' love her. So yeah,
my favorite character in the show.
Yeah, so far, absolutely.
Yeah,
hands down. And then one other note that you have in here that I want to talk about, just because it amuses me. I mean, we kind of mentioned it a little bit with the number of guns that have been pointed at Fury, is that he hasn't got shot. You called it the James Bond effect.
Yeah,
in your note, and I think that's fantastic, especially if you look at how episode 4 ended. Okay, so here's the president. He's under fire. You have a man coming in a Land Rover just out of the blue, with nobody turns to fire at him or give a care that this guy who was fired and probably has been labeled a terrorist at this point by his own government because of Scrody, is able to walk right up to where the president is, and they're like, don't worry, we got this. And they're like, okay, no problem. You're Nick Fury.
Right. So I work in a hospital, if anybody doesn't know that. If there's anybody who needs any level of security, there is no way anybody is getting within 20 feet of that person.
Right.
And that's with normal, we need this person's urine sample so we know if they're drunk or not.
Right.
Or, we're bringing this person from their cell because they hurt themselves. There's no way there wouldn't be more people securing that hallway,
Right. It just kind of cracked me up. You got, not only is at the end of that last episode, do you have Fury, this possible, seen as a terrorist now, get within 20 feet of the president, but take him away in his own vehicle. But like, no, you guys stick around and fight it out. I got this. And then walking him into the hospital in episode 5, where like, there's no problem here.
Yeah.
So
it's not often I can say this, but I think Grey's Anatomy would do that scene better. And I've got big issues with Grey's Anatomy.
Yeah, fair enough. As much as I have enjoyed this whole series, and I have very much enjoyed it, it's been one of the highlights of the Marvel Studios releases, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I just, that little oversight is the one thing. It kind of bugs me, kind of sticks in my craw a little bit. I'm like, as good as the writing has been on so many things, I'm like, okay, I understand you're trying to move the plot and all, but
well, it might just be that they didn't have the clearance to drop the extras in using AI yet.
Well, that's also a problem right now with the actor strike and all. Yeah, absolutely.
But
all right,
I did have one question for you, Tim.
Yeah, fire away.
Last line of the show. It's Fury walking away. He's on the phone. It's time. Let's finish this. Who's he talking to?
Captain Marvel.
It's a good theory.
I think it's Captain Marvel because we need, and I don't have it handy right now, but in weeks previous, we've had images of, Fury in his outfit that we see him walking out of that tomb with, Rambo, and leading into the Marvels. So
yeah,
I think that's probably where this is. We're either talking to Rambo or we're talking to Captain Marvel. But one of the two ways we have an introduction to the movie in this next episode or two.
Since that comes out in November, that would make sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
all right. I just wanted to get your theory. I figured it was either, Captain Marvel or he's calling Gravik to, okay, we can meet now. But I like your theory better.
I don't think he's calling Gravik, as I think if he gets near Gravik, he's going to kill Gravik. Or at least try to, because the only way... and they're going to have to Wolverine him. The only way you're going to kill Gravik, in my opinion, is you're going to have to cut off his head.
Would that work?
That's how you kill Wolverine.
Okay.
It's the only way you do it.
All right.
Or drown him. I think drowning or if I remember correctly. I'll have to double check that, but I'm pretty sure that one of those two ways is the only way you can kill Wolverine and or Deadpool.
Okay, fair enough.
And we'll find out more than likely in Deadpool 3. Anyway.
If it ever gets finished.
If it ever gets a chance to get finished. Pay your writers! Anyway. Okay, so. Episode 5. I'm looking forward to episode 6. I'm looking forward to how this all wraps up and how we get into the Marvels. And I'm also, just one more thing.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting to see how this whole harvesting of human personalities is kind of coming to a crash and burn situation with the Skrulls, with how we saw it in, we see it on the right-hand side there with Captain Marvel from the Captain Marvel movie. We see it on the left there when they were stealing, I think that was for Pagan or Pagan or however you say his name. And then, of course, Gravik losing his ever-loving flipping mind. So,
yep.
But yeah, so hey, if you guys have theories and thoughts about what you saw today in Marvel's Secret Invasion, please don't hesitate. You can include any of those comments down below, and you'll have opportunity to see some of the cool stuff that we have got going. If you do what that says down there below, please remember to like and subscribe. And also, we have another banner. I'm going to show you that one. Get ready. Here it is. Oh, yes. Check out our Patreon page. Yeah, we've got a lot of cool stuff. There's been this Friday, we have an interview being released with Thunder Levin. There it is.
Yes.
Thunder Levin, the writer of Sharknado. Man, my brain is just not firing on all cylinders today. But anyway, Thunder Levin is the writer of Sharknado, Sharknado 1 through 4, and he has writing credits on the remaining 3 or 4 movies after that. And we talked about how he got into the business, how Star Wars and Star Trek have influenced his writing. It's a really kind of a cool story. Not only that, but he also talks about how the Sharknado movies were written in such a way that they were steering into the camp. And it's a really kind of a cool story. It helps you with your perspective on those movies. It makes them far more entertaining to watch if you know how Thunder was writing them and why. So check that out. But if you don't want to wait till Friday, you can, of course, go to that link down there in our show notes, patreon.com/FSF PopCast. And actually, that's /, excuse me.
I was just looking at my keyboard.
Yeah, patreon.com/FSF PopCast. And you can watch or listen to that today for as little as 3 measly George Washingtons. So yeah, check that out. And it's a whole lot of fun. And there's a whole lot of bloopers, similar to what you would have seen today. With what I have been creating for you, except for these are live, and the other ones are all pulled out by John and Nick. They make sure that my bloopers are well maintained for posterity's sake. So anyway, there's that. We're going with that.
Yep. And a lot of those bloopers are available through Patreon.
Yes, they are. There's a whole slew of them.
Kathleen's
got some good ones on there too.
Oh, yeah.
So. All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up today for our Live at 5. Goodbye.
Bye.
On behalf of the rest of the hosts of the FSF Podcast, we want to thank you for listening to this episode. If you'd like to be a guest on a future episode, please contact us by means of Twitter or Instagram using the handle @FSF PopCast, or go to www.fsfpopcast.com and click on the contact link.